Hi, I'm Mark Taylor, and it's time again for the Mark Taylor Show. This week's guest is Gustaaf Kooiman, a local geologist who traveled from far away to come here, and he's going to come on and talk about his life in the rock business and how he ended up in Canada. Welcome to the show, Gustaaf.
Thanks, Mark.
So obviously, I think people will recognize that you're probably not a Charlotte County boy, but you are now. Like, obviously, we've adopted you, or you've adopted Charlotte County.
No, I'm a Dutch boy.
Yes.
And I'm a typical Dutch boy. I was born and lived for a while in a house next to a humongous dike in Holland.
Okay.
That dike protected us from the North Sea.
Right.
I was not one of those Dutch boys that had a finger in the dike. Because that doesn't work.
No. That's old wives' tales and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you were born.
I was born.
What's the proper name? The Netherlands or Holland?
You can use
or the
both,
interchangeable.
But the proper name is the Netherlands, the Low Country.
Okay.
Holland refers to the dominant province that was there at one stage. But,
okay.
Both are used.
Okay.
So. I went to primary school and high school in the province of Zeeland.
Okay.
That's the southwest corner of Holland. We
Right.
also have a community here in New Brunswick that is called Zeeland,
Okay.
or Zeeland.
Zeeland, yep.
And then New Zealand, next to Australia, has been named after my home province as well.
So it was Dutch settlers that settled New Zealand, obviously.
It was a Dutch discoverer who saw New Zealand or saw these islands, and he named it after the province of Zeeland.
I've learned something already.
And that was Abel Tasman.
Okay.
Tasmania was named after him.
Oh, okay.
So there were quite a few Dutch discoverers and explorers around. So I always liked that.
Yeah, well, you've been doing your homework, I can tell.
So, yeah, I went to school in the province of Zeeland, and then I went to Amsterdam and studied geology.
Right.
I came from a family of nature lovers.
Okay.
My parents, I had uncles and I had cousins that were also collecting shells and fossils, and they were in photography of wild animals, mostly seabirds. So it was only logical that I started to study either biology or geology. In the end, it became geology.
Okay. So that became your major, right? I mean.
Yeah. So after I finished my degree in Amsterdam, I got married with an Italian girl.
Right.
I did 18 months of military service. Holland still had a draft at that time.
Okay.
So after all that was done, I applied for a job, and I got an offer from the Billiton company. Billiton was almost the metals arm of Shell in those years.
Yeah. Which Dutch Shell was the
Dutch Royal Shell. Yeah.
Yep.
So the first talk I had with the company, they said they were looking for a geologist in Rondonia, and I scratched my head and said, "Where is Rondonia?"
That's what I would have said.
That was part of Brazil, close to the border with Bolivia. So when I came home, I had to explain to my wife, we may be going to Rondonia. So there came my school atlas, and I looked up where Rondonia was.
Okay.
Then a few months later, I talked to the company again, and they said, "No, you're not going to Rondonia, you're going to Rhodesia." So I went home again and opened the school atlas, and we found Rhodesia. So indeed, the first assignment was a job on a tin mine in Rhodesia.
So you took that one?
I took that one. We stayed 3.5 years there, and then I arranged for a transfer to South Africa.
Okay.
So we were 5 years in South Africa.
Wow.
And now it was 1980, early 1980. And I wanted to get out of South Africa, and then I heard from head office, "Are you interested in a job in New Brunswick, Canada?" So
Did you get the?
I got the atlas out again.
Where is that?
So there is New Brunswick. So never heard of it.
No, I'm sure you didn't.
Of course, Canada, yes, we had heard about it.
Right. Because you didn't have really, I think we talked about it off camera, you never really studied geography or history or anything of Canada, right,
not really.
in your schooling?
Of course, we knew a lot about Canadians because they liberated Holland.
Bingo. Yep.
I waved at Canadian troops in 1945.
They're held in high esteem.
Very much so. So Canada is Canadians are very popular. Canada is a very popular country. So, yeah, we didn't know much about Canada. We were living in South Africa, so you couldn't Google it in those years.
No, no.
And I had only met one Canadian in South Africa, and he was a geophysicist, and he lived in Vancouver. He couldn't tell me anything about New Brunswick.
He'd never been here either.
Never been here.
And of course, Vancouver, have you been to Vancouver?
I've been
the geography and and the weather is so much different than here anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's right. But we knew a little bit about Canada. We knew about Pierre Trudeau, Margaret Sinclair.
Yes.
Expo 67.
Right.
Peacekeeping.
The Mounties.
The Mounties.
Maple syrup.
No, I didn't know
Beavers?
about maples. Yeah, beavers, of course.
Moose?
No, not moose yet.
Oh,
no.
okay.
So, yeah, we knew a little bit about Canada, but it was not very much. So, yeah, we were in for some surprises. When
I dare say. What time of year did you come here to first take a look at the place?
We came here during Indian summer in the fall, so everything looked just beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful weather. The leaves were turning. It was really, really nice. But when we arrived for the second time as immigrants, it was March. So
There's still a lot of snow on the ground?
And there was quite a bit of snow on the ground, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's snow in the Netherlands, right? I mean,
yeah, but not very often.
No, no.
I recall some severe winters in Holland as well, like
Right.
1963, etc. But you still remember those severe winters. But yeah, that was Canada was all about cold weather.
Exactly.
My wife was part of a tennis club in South Africa, and then she told the ladies there, we are going to move to South Africa, to Canada, and they said, "You must be joking." They said, "You're going to Canada, that cold country? You're going to give all this up?
Yes.
Playing tennis 365 days of the year?"
Yes.
Because there the weather was either hot, very hot, or unbearably hot.
Right.
So yes, we were in for a shock.
Yeah, I would dare say.
Yeah.
And when you came here, you're getting into the black fly mosquito season
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
getting right here on the cusp
Yeah.
of it. It's
That's right.
coming, and so
That's right.
and so you came to work at the tungsten mine. It was opening. Billiton was opening the Billiton, Canada, right?
Yeah.
Was opening
Yeah,
the mine
was
up there,
opening
and that was in the
tungsten mine.
81. You said you came here.
Yeah, I came here in 1980.
Right.
Yeah. The first job was to go over all the cores, the diamond drill cores that were stored at the mine site. And you had no protection from black flies there, so
Absolutely not.
Black flies 101, boy oh boy.
and of course you probably figured out at an early time what fly dope worked the best and all that stuff. I mean,
yeah, that's that's why it's so important for Syrian immigrants to get mentors, because I also got a lot of mentors, people who told me about the black flies, who told me about hornets' nests.
things you'd never encountered before. No idea, right?
Where to buy a wood stove, how to saw wood, how to chop wood, all these things.
Yep.
And I'm still learning today.
Well, I mean, I'd say if you've lasted this long, you're probably okay. 'Cause, I mean, you got 35 years in now.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
So when all the time you've lived here, do you still follow? I mean, now we have the internet and everything. Do you
Yeah.
still follow what goes on back home?
Yes.
You have family and friends there?
I read a Dutch newspaper online every morning. I have relatives in Holland. I have a brother and his wife there. I have nieces. I have a second cousin. He probably send me an email every other day. I have friends there. So yes, I keep in contact with Holland.
How many languages do you speak?
That's a good question, Mark, because
you don't practice them a lot, I guess.
When I left high school, we spoke English, German, French, and Dutch.
Okay.
And everybody who left high school spoke those 4 languages.
Okay. Wow.
And the reasoning behind it was Holland is a small country. You have to be able to speak the language of your neighbors because you are trading with your neighbors.
Right.
If you go to Germany, they expect you to speak German.
Okay.
And French also very important. So that's why it puzzles me sometimes over the debate in New Brunswick of whether we are bilingual or not, whether we should be, etc., etc. There are only 2 languages.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
spoke 4.
Yeah, and have you learned Italian? Because you said you
I married an Italian girl, and
because are they very similar with Italian, Spanish?
Yeah, the Latin language.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of similarities, but each language is totally different from the other.
Okay. Yeah. So how often do you get to go back, or do you go back to? I
go to Holland about once a year.
Okay.
When my parents were still alive, they came to Canada fairly frequently, so I didn't go to Holland then. But now it's about once a year. And the reason, I'm not nostalgic, but I like certain foods.
Okay, this is stuff you can't get here.
Right, like raw herring.
Oh, okay.
And the Indonesian cuisine. Indonesia was part of the Dutch East Indies. The cuisine came to Holland and has been adopted by the Dutch as their own.
Okay.
Things like smoked mackerel, the sausages.
You can get them here, but it's not what you're used to, I guess.
Not in 1980.
No, God, no.
Not
Okay,
in
no.
1980. No. We got a bit fed up with orange cheddar all the time because I was used to the Edam and the.
I suppose the cheese and stuff would be completely different because you're getting Canadian cuisine, right?
You get Canadian cuisine. There are certain things that we liked immediately, like fiddleheads.
Okay.
We liked, of course, the blueberries, any berry. Never got used to dulse.
Right. I tried to feed you some of that, but you're not taking that at all.
No.
So I guess another question I have, because I used to work with a lady from England. She came from England, and she's lived here probably as long as you have in Canada. And she said that the people, like her relatives and everything from back home, they think she talks funny because she's picked up some Canadian slang and things like that. Do you encounter that? Do people think that you talk, I don't say funny, but...
No.
You don't.
They are surprised in Holland that my Dutch is still that good, yeah.
Yeah, well, you get to practice it, right?
That's right. If I tell them that I've been away from Holland since 1971, the 9 years in Africa and then the 36 years here, they said, now we're really surprised that your Dutch is still that good.
There's probably some things that you say that we say here in Canada, they would probably go, what is that? I mean, I don't know if they'd know what like a cord of wood or you're talking about.
No, you have to explain.
You've done different things like that you've run into. Yeah. Well, certainly fiddleheads. You've got talking about fiddleheads. I'm sure that's probably not well known around the world.
No, you have to explain that. Yeah.
So I guess you had 2 boys that grew up here. Were they born in Canada?
No, one was born the oldest was born in Rhodesia.
Right.
The second one was born in Holland.
Okay.
The oldest boy is living in Rome, Italy. He is an artist, and the youngest one is living with his family in Calgary. He is a lawyer.
Okay.
And we have 3 grandchildren. That's why I like the book of Donald Savoy very much. It's about the economy of the Maritimes, and it says returning grandchildren or visiting grandchildren. So we get the doses of that every summer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, what differences would they have encountered? Because they grew up in Canada, basically. I mean, they came here as young boys, and
that's right.
Then you had encountered in your, obviously it's a different, completely a different society there than it is here. So the schooling and everything was different.
I grew up in the, let's say, in the 50s.
Right.
That's a long time ago.
Well,
Holland was it had a very strict, a very formal society. To give an example, my parents were Dutch Reformed.
Okay.
The primary school was Dutch Reformed. The secondary school was a Protestant school. The university was a Protestant school. The Dutch Reformed had their own political party. There were 4 Protestant parties in Holland. My parents had a Dutch Reformed baker, a Dutch Reformed grocer. So everything was along religious lines.
Right.
That changed a little bit in the 60s when the Beatles came.
Yes. Yep.
Unrest at the university. So
did you had the British invasion as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Probably not like we had it here, but I mean, obviously they're closer than they were when they came here to New York and
that's right. Yeah.
Ed Sullivan and things like that. But certainly a big, vast change throughout the world.
Yeah.
A revolution, I guess, of sorts.
Yeah, I found that it was a lot easier going for the kids in Canada. Everybody calls you by your first name. And the kids, the friends of my kids, they come inside and they open the fridge and help themselves. And hey, you don't have any Coke? How come? So that's different.
Yeah, it was a little bit, and people waving to you.
Yes.
Do you find that the people of Canada friendly? I guess.
Yeah, the people are very, very friendly, very helpful. I like Canadians because they're practical. They can do anything with their hands. They are resourceful.
Right.
Sometimes it would be nice if a Canadian was a little bit more open to the outside world.
Right.
I think they should travel a little bit more.
Yep.
And I'm not saying 1 or 2 weeks to the Dominican Republic, but get out of your comfort zone and go and see the world. Work at an orphanage in Uganda for 3 weeks or teach.
See how the other half lives.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you didn't have really any preconceived notions.
No.
But when you came here, you thought, well, okay, I'm in St. George, New Brunswick.
Yeah.
And 1,000 people, right? Like probably at the most. Yeah. And nobody you knew? Was there anybody?
Nobody we knew here.
And other than, I guess, then there was been people that you worked with at the start.
Yeah.
That came, that would have came at the same time as you did. So you got to, that was a little circle that you would have had.
There is a disadvantage to that because you don't move outside that circle.
Right.
So when the mine closed, we were virtually the only ones left behind, and we stayed.
Yep.
Then you start to get more contact with the local population. We bought the woodlot. I think the woodlot has changed our lives.
Right.
I asked for advice. I wouldn't know the difference between a fir and a spruce in those years. So, yeah, the woodlot has really changed our lives. That is one of the attractions of Canada. It is the space and the freedom. For example, you take Holland and Belgium. Those 2 countries would fit in New Brunswick with a combined population of 28 million.
Holy smokes.
We have 750,000.
Yeah, we don't even have 1 million here. No.
750,000 here. So when I drive to St. John or St. Stephen with my wife, we said, look, this highway is for ourselves. There is nobody. There's no traffic.
No.
It seems like a car-free Sunday every day.
And you know, if you get there at 4:30, 5 o'clock, the locals are going, oh, I can't stand this rush hour traffic, and you're going, wow, man.
That's right.
This is relaxing.
Yeah, it is. So one thing New Brunswick really needs, and of course a lot of people have been saying that we need more people. We need more people to take advantage of the infrastructure that is already in place. You've heard Frank McKenna talking about we need more people in New Brunswick. Maybe we should force immigrants to stay in New Brunswick for a while. I don't know what the solution is. You're also competing with a lot of other countries for immigrants.
Yep.
Not for migrants, not for refugees, but I saw an immigration fair in Holland on TV. And then you have countries like Sweden, Norway, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, also trying to get Dutch immigrants. So the Dutch immigrant that came here in the after the war and the early 50s came here for a reason.
Right.
They want to build a better future. Things were bad in Holland after the Second World War, but
would Art have been Art Rutenberg? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Was he from? Was he from?
He is also from the Netherlands.
But he would have came at the same. He was here long before you came.
He was here already early on.
Right.
And one of the requirements in those years was that you had to work on a farm for a year.
Okay.
Before you could do something else. So he worked on a farm on the island of Montreal.
He was a geologist as well.
He was a geologist. No, he actually started to study geology in Canada.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But he studied tropical agriculture in Holland.
Okay.
And then after the colonies became independent in Holland, in Indonesia, he decided to immigrate to Canada.
Right.
His family didn't like that very much, but I think he made the right decision.
Right. He worked for the province of New Brunswick, I believe.
He worked for the
natural resources.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned some of the things. I guess we talked about off camera as well. That the Canadians are they're known as being a bit of I don't know what will be say humble or whatever, but you've touched on some things. Were there some things that you didn't really like when you first came to Canada? Was there some of the laws or politics or things? I mean, you became foods, obviously. I guess some of the
the food that was probably the main obstacle. I found the bureaucracy very easy. You have to get all your documents. I read in the paper today that the Syrian refugees have to get their driver's licenses. So we had to go through that, do your driver's test again, and do your written test.
You had to take the driver's test here?
Yes, yeah.
How'd that go for you?
Oh.
and so the steering wheel on a different side of the road?
But of course, yeah.
And you're driving on the different side of the road here?
I'm driving an automatic. I'm driving an SUV, and I'm No, that was different.
Yeah. I dare say.
And then you have to wait for your Medicare, 3 months. You have to wait for your social insurance number. Okay. But that went all very smooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you were here and you worked at the mine, and obviously at that time, did you know what kind of a mine it was going to be? Because there was always talk of tin in the area.
That's right.
But tin wasn't the mainstay of this mine, right?
No, it was a tungsten mine, but I worked on a tin mine in Rhodesia, and I was very much interested in the intersections, certain boreholes.
Right.
It's shown here that there was quite a bit of tin available or present. So in 1985 I got some money to do some drilling, and we discovered sizable tin deposits at Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
And after the mine closed, we have been working on those tin deposits for many years. Apart from tungsten at Mount Pleasant, there is tin. It's probably the largest tin deposit in North America. There is also indium. Indium is a rare metal, probably one of the highest grade deposits in the world. There is bismuth, also very sizable deposits.
Molybdenum?
Molybdenum.
Yep. Which was they were mining when I was there, because you and I worked together. I mentioned that. That's how kind of where we met was at the mine. So
that's right. So it's a bad time to be a miner these days.
Right.
Metal prices are low. You can't find money to even start a new mine or even maintain a brand new mine. But I think that that is only temporary.
You think you need some deep pockets?
You need some deep pockets.
Because there's going to be some lean times where there's no money coming in, and it's all going to be going out.
I can give you one example about tin. Tin has been mined since the Bronze Age,
right?
5,000 years ago. The US Geological Survey has calculated that maybe there is tin for another 20 years, maybe a little bit more, and then we are running out of tin. So there is tin at Mount Pleasant. It's not a big deposit, it's not a high-grade deposit, but it may become an important deposit. Indium, the same thing. Indium is used in, for all kinds of high-tech applications.
When it's heated, it glows, doesn't it? Is that
the color indigo? It was named after the color indigo. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So in the high-tech industry, in the renewable energy, where everybody is talking about windmills, wind turbines, solar panels, a lot of these rare metals, rare earth, are being used and will be used in the future as well. We don't really have an insight in how much of these rare earths we really have. Indium, we could have only another 10 or 20 years, but it is of crucial importance, that particular rare metal.
So you think there's some reason for some optimism about the mine, even though not in the near future?
That's right. See. I think that the best and the largest and the highest grade and the easiest tin deposits in the world have been mined. So people in the end are going to look for the smaller deposits, the hard to get deposits, the more costly deposits, to get to the tin metal again, because it's a very important as a solder in the electronics business.
Okay. Yep. Well, I mentioned to you earlier, before we started, that this would fly by like you would not believe, and unfortunately, time is now our enemy, and it's fascinating to sit here and talk to you because as long as I knew you, you've told me things today that I didn't know because I only knew you as as the new Canadian, right, and things like that at the time. So I really appreciate you coming on, Gustaaf.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Pleasure being here.
Well, I'm glad you could make it.
And nice to having this chat, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's another episode of The Mark Taylor Show. Please join in next week. Thank you.